our focus was on just making sure that we could provide technology support to SMEs. If I had a dime for the number of times people, called me aside and said, "Guy, are you sure you won't just go back to banking?" And I did try. The credit, I have to be honest. And till I'm speaking to you now, Roundstone still runs the TEF Connect platform. But the difference between somebody that has an idea and somebody that is successful is how they implement that idea. You cannot succeed without integrity, particularly when you don't have money. Build it, they'll come. It's a very terrible myth. As an entrepreneur, your only job is to survive.
Hi there, I'm Oluwatosin Komolafe, your host on Business Africa with Oluwatosin, a platform where we bring you real people, real businesses, real experiences. And tonight's episode is sponsored by Crown Real Estate, a very credible real estate company. And tonight, I have Mr. Adeola Bojuwoye, all the way from Kaduna State. Mr. Adeola is a tech entrepreneur, engineer, and business development specialist who is passionate about building innovation-driven communities and empowering young people across northern Nigeria. He is the founder of Nexus Africa, a vibrant innovation and co-working hub in Kaduna that provides modern workspaces, high-speed internet, business support services, and networking opportunities for entrepreneurs, startups, and creatives. Nexus Africa was built to promote collaboration, creativity, and capacity building, helping young Africans transform their ideas into sustainable businesses. He is also the CEO of Roundstone Consulting, a technology startup delivering innovative solutions to businesses and government agencies. And he manages KADA Hive Innovation and Technology Hub, a collaboration between the Kaduna State Government and the Bank of Industry, aimed at strengthening Kaduna's technology and innovation ecosystem. Mr. Bojuwoye is also the founder of Clay Africa, a forward-thinking financial technology company offering buy now, pay later services designed to ease financial burdens for both individuals and businesses. Beyond entrepreneurship, Mr. Bojuwoye is an active voice in regional and national tech policy discussions, including the Northwest Regional Town Hall meeting on the Nigerian Startup Bill. He strongly believes that technology hubs should go beyond teaching digital skills to actually drive real business growth, job creation, and community development across Africa. So tonight, stay tuned because this conversation with Mr. Adeola Bojuwoye will not only inspire you, it will challenge your thinking and show how innovation, entrepreneurship, and vision are transforming the face of businesses across Africa. Tonight, let's meet Mr. Adeola Bojuwoye. So, sir, can you tell us about your background and what led you into business?
Thank you, Tosin, and it's actually a pleasure being here. So my story started in Zaria. I was in ABU, graduated from mechanical engineering, and even while I was in school, I used to tell my colleagues then that I don't intend to work for anyone. I've always known that I wanted to be, self-employed, even though I didn't understand what it meant back then. Some of those things had started to crystallize even from, back then in school, where I always had one business venture or the other that I was doing. With a few of my friends and colleagues would, start up this business, make a few bucks, move to the next. And then, of course, I think the main turning point came when I originally did start to work for a commercial bank in Kaduna.
Okay.
And interfacing with customers and seeing how, things worked in that whole business environment was hugely impactful on me. And I knew it was something I wanted to do. The difference was that I also was very aware that I didn't have the necessary background, a business background to be able to get things done. So I took the more academic approach. I decided to leave for a master's abroad. And then in my thinking back then, it was just to make sure that I was empowering myself with the knowledge that was necessary to then start this on a big scale. So yes, I was there for a bit. After my studies, worked abroad for a bit, and then came back to Nigeria. Coming back to Nigeria with a friend of mine, we then kickstarted Roundstone. And that's the genesis essentially of how we got here and how things started.
Okay, so what problem was Roundstone trying to solve?
Well, again, Roundstone has evolved, and as many businesses evolve as well. Back then, our focus was on just making sure that we could provide technology support to SMEs. Traditionally, back then, and even to some extent, in this current reality, we found that those that were taking advantage of technology were mostly the bigger players, right? So banks, financial institutions, and the likes. And in that reality, then you found that the small corner shops, the small clinics and hospitals didn't really have any technology enhancements within their operations. So things were still very heavily manually done. And we were looking to sort of solve for technology access across that. So more specifically, one of our first solutions that we ever built and ever tried to market was a healthcare management system. So when we had built it, we had tried to market it to many hospitals in Kaduna. A few of them actually did take it up, credit to them. And yes, our first paying customer was for an ERP for hospital management. And it was from then on, that we realized that there was some opportunity there. And then we just kind of organically started to chase that down. But like I said, we've evolved significantly.
Obviously.
From that point. We found out that there were many other problems to be solved in other segments that we didn't originally consider. We were not a public sector facing organization at all. The assumption we had back then was that it just wasn't worth the effort. A lot of unstructuredness there that was going to be very complicated for us to go to, considering our size as well. So, but then, like I said, several things happened, and I hope I get to tell a few of the stories today, where we then found the opportunities in the public sector and opportunities for us to solve real problems. And that's what we've been doing since. So we're doing private sector, public sector now, and trying to solve things across all of those segments.
Looking back, what would you say was your biggest challenge when you were starting out?
Do you want to pick a one? There are so many. There are so many. The first I would say was, just getting people to believe in what you are doing, right? If I had a dime for the number of times people, called me aside and said, "Guy, are you sure you won't just go back to banking?" And I did try. Credit, I have to be honest. There are several times that I got very heavily frustrated around how the pace at which things were going. People didn't have that much faith in you as a person, and there were a few things also, because if you didn't have the buy-in of the customers, right, if they couldn't see where you were going, then it was also very difficult to then get other people to join you in taking that journey. I'm talking about staff now. So I remember that in Roundstone we were a 3-member team for almost 5 years. So for the the early on days, practically one, but maybe in the first 5 years we were just 3. And it was mostly because, these guys couldn't really see the vision. So it was difficult to retain talent to actually help you scale and the thing. So there was that. And then of course you also had I would say the maturity of the markets that we're also trying to play in. Remember, I mentioned that the focus was on doing this for mostly northern Nigeria. There were a lot of other companies doing a lot of other things in Lagos at the time, but it didn't make sense to go and join that whole. We thought let's crystallize that market for ourselves in the north. But of course, the maturity wasn't as significant, so it was a bit difficult to grow that market on that end as well. And then, of course, you have the typical things you have to contend with in Nigeria, which is, just how do you keep business running? As a young man just trying to make things work, expenses there and all of that, and you have to still balance all of that with expenditure on business as well. It wasn't easy. There were real challenges, I remember a story in the early days where someone someone I know called me. I went to see them, and then they sort of sat me down, and apparently this had been a conversation they had with someone else, and then they're asking, okay, so what's your plan exactly for this? How long are you going to keep trying to push this along? Are you aware that there are real life things ahead of you, kids to raise, put to school, and all of those kinds of stuff? Do you really want to consider another approach? I remember I left there feeling very deflated, and these were people that were supposedly close to you. So if people like in that bracket are not even to cheer you on, then you have some real things to go.
Was there a time where you almost gave up, and what kept you moving?
Oh yes. So after that conversation, I remember very clearly. I think a couple of days after that, I just went back, dusted off my CV, and actually really called a couple of people, some of my old colleagues in the bank, to say, is there an opportunity to just come back in and try and pick up things where we left off. I thank God every single day that didn't work, and that I can't really take credit for it, to be honest, because I'm sure if they had offered me the job, I probably would have taken it. And I'm almost certain that the path would have been different for me. So, I don't think... and there was that. And then there were several others as well. Even when things started to pick up a bit, there were significant issues at different points where I thought, do you know what, maybe this isn't the way. And then, but for some reason, we're here, we're still pushing. Still getting things done.
When you started out, was there any mistake you made early that maybe eventually became a blessing in disguise or something like that?
Well, there are mistakes that were real mistakes, but there are mistakes that also became, real good, solid learning points. One of the very good things that happened to us very early on, maybe not very early on, a few years after we had started, a couple of years after we had started Roundstone, was that we were beneficiaries of a program by the then Jonathan administration called UWIN. UWIN gave us seed capital, non-refundable seed capital, which was amazing. And I think one of the big mistakes that we had made back then was to focus on things that were not really about growing the business, right? So a lot of the focus was around, get an office, get a really nice looking office. Get really nice furniture in there, make it look like you're really doing work. But the very interesting thing about that approach was that in that office, for the 2 or so years that we kept that office, we never did any business out of it, which was very weird, because it meant that the things that were getting us money, right, or the places where we were making money, was not the place where we spent money. So if we had used that money for something else, or to actually grow those channels that were, that would have probably stretched us in there. So that's something that I wish we hadn't done. But it's a key learning, and we keep learning from it every day. One thing that I also do know that we learned from and we continue to grow with is mostly things around just financial management. I learned very, very early on from, thankfully, mentors that have really stuck by me. To be very prudent with the way you manage finances. It wasn't always like that, right? We had made some fundamental mistakes at the beginning where we were spending money really not on things we should be spending money on. But then when we saw what those outcomes looked like, those are things that still shape our decision making even till this day. So once a bill comes and it's been presented, one of the first critical things that we ask, just 3 questions. Can we afford this? Is this actually growing us in the right direction? And number 3, if we spend this money and we lose it, does it actually affect us in a very significant way? So once we've been able to shape a sort of framework around spending, around those 3 basic questions, we keep moving at it.
Amazing. Wow. So, what would you say was that turning point that's in your business? Would it be this when you got the grant from then Goodluck Jonathan's regime, or was there any specific event that happened that just was just that turning point?
So UWIN was a great positive impact on our business, and I continue to credit the program for that, for as long as I'm able to. But it wasn't the turning point. So in 2015, in December, I remember I was scrolling on Twitter, and then I found this link about Tony Elumelu and a foundation he was starting around entrepreneurship. And the application was very tedious, extremely tedious, but I stuck to it, submitted it, and eventually got selected. So the program runs every year. It still runs, and there's a fantastic story around it, which I'm happy to tell. And we were successful. We were one of the first 1,000 that were picked across Africa. This wasn't just in Nigeria, it was across the 54 African countries. And we were lucky to have been picked from Nigeria. One of the very few in northern Nigeria. Majority of those that got from Nigeria were based in Lagos and in the south. So we got in there, and I always tell people that the grant was for $5,000, but the money was the least thing. In fact, the most thing out of that program was that the money wasn't even at the very least. It was a lot of money back then, but it wasn't at the very least the turning point, because that single thing opened doors and opportunities to the extent that we, right now, Roundstone, are one of the major technology support structures around that program right now. The program runs on our technology, runs on our platform, even till this day, right? I get direct access to Mr. Tony most of his birthday every year. I get invited, have opportunities to speak to him on a diverse, set of things. Through that, he's gone ahead to introduce us to state governments, to governors, to grant us access. Following that, he has introduced us to, or through him also, we've gone to work with other members of the UBA Holding Group. We've worked with Africa Prudential, worked with United Capital, worked with TEF at its core, worked with UBA. So it's opened a whole lot of doors. And I think one of the things that program did was to open our eyes to what potential looks like, right? What possibilities look like. To not limit ourselves and our thinking just around what we found ourselves. You remember all of this started in Zaria. I remember I was with one state governor in 2017. And when he asked me where the business was based out, I said Zaria, and he was like, why do you run a technology company from Zaria? You couldn't believe it. But I mean, it's the reality, and it's a really good story. I keep telling it all the time that the program itself is huge, and I'm a huge ambassador for it. Even on my status right now, I think it's one of the only things that I usually post. It's become such a huge training ground for people because it tools you beyond just the money. It gives you real good tools and foundational things to help build business. And then it gives you access, a whole lot of access. There is no African country that I want to go to today that I don't have a leeway or a legway into, unless I don't want to go. But if I do want to, and I want to set up some kind of business in there, the structures around having or getting it there are already there. So yeah, it was that was I think one of the major turning points for us.
Wow, amazing. So that's like where the breakthrough happened.
Yeah.
I believe that this was working.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I think if I say the first thing that made me believe that yes, we're actually onto something here, is also a story that is linked to Mr. Tony. So we had when the applications happened in 2015, it was all very manual. So all everybody had to submit via email. And as you can imagine, getting thousands of applications via email was chaotic. You know, people had questions and then questions don't get answered. And it wasn't because of lack of effort from the team, it's just a lot to deal with. So I remember someone that I always call a guardian angel now, Mrs. Abimbola Adepaki. She was then the COO of TEF. And I met her in Lagos, and I'm not sure what gave me the confidence to step up to her. And I said, look, this is a fantastic program, but this process can be better. Can we automate that process for you? And she just looked at me and said, yeah, go and try it. I didn't know her. She had never met me before. We had never said one word to each other. But I don't know where that confidence came. And I just went to speak to her. And she said, yeah, go ahead. And we went. We built a very, very rough first draft of the platform. And then I traveled to Lagos, fixed an appointment, and went to demo it to her. I said, this is what we want to do. Can you give us input and let's know if we're in the right direction? And then she called the meeting. There were maybe about 10 people. She called into the meeting on the day. It was really exciting. And everybody was so buzzed about it. And they were giving input and saying, oh, why don't you do this or do that or do this? And then they went and drew up this whole. Remember, at this point, we're doing this. We had not talked about money. We had not said anything about cost. But we're happy to do it. Because imagine this guy just gave you $5,000, right? So I just felt, this was some paying back. But then by the time we went back for the third demo, she called me to our office and said, look, you're an entrepreneur. You cannot run on passion, right? So you need to go and put some commercials behind this thing that you're doing. And we'll see how we can pay for it. So that was the first time that anybody was going to pay us real, when I say real money, I mean real money. All along, we used to get people to pay us 100,000, 200,000, 150, those kinds of things. But TEF was the first to actually give us a 3-year contract, if I remember correctly, back then. And the contract every year was, I think, about 4 million, if I remember correctly. 3 or 4 million. So they give us a huge chunk of cash, even back then. It was 2017, if you remember. So they gave us a chunk of cash that we were then using to draw up that. And till I'm speaking to you now, Roundstone still runs the TEF Connect platform. Wow, very good testament on our part.
A very good one. This is quite inspiring.
Yeah.
So, sir, if let's say you have 5 million naira now, and you're meant to start again, how would you start?
I'm definitely not going to buy furniture or a new office. So, one thing I always tell people, and I mean this 100%, and this is not fluff, it's not trying to downplay. I think the greatest asset you can have as an entrepreneur is not money. Money is even not on the top 5 list. There are 5 things that you need, right? If you have money, it may help you. It may also derail you, right? But there are some 5 key things that I would always advocate for. The first is that you have to provide value. Unfortunately, value is not linked to cash. So if you want to do something different, you want to go into identify a problem and solve for that problem, many times the tools that you need to actually get it done can be found in the idea that you create. Once you're able to articulate that idea and you can pitch it in such a clear, concise language, many times you find people to fund it. Many times. The second one is implementation rigor. I cannot speak enough about it. I tell the team all the time, ideas are a dime a dozen. They are all over the place. But the difference between somebody that has an idea and somebody that is successful is how they implement that idea. So you can have 2 people stumble on the same concept, right? Around the same time. But you'd find that give them a runway of say 2-3 years, their levels of success will be different. And you can directly link that to how strong and how well their implementation looks like, right? So it's about staying the course and making sure that if you state 5 things you need to do to address or close a gap, you focus on them, creatively go into them, and constantly tweak them, which is one of the things that we're going to be talking about. The second thing is that, the third thing is that whatever idea that you make or have today, be rest assured that it's not going to be the same looking at it 5-10 years from that time. You have to be prepared for it. Many people get very what's the kind word to use? They get very connected with the idea to the point that they don't see anything else. When you become so laser focused, right? And there's nothing wrong with focus, right? But when you pigeonhole yourself and you only look in one direction, you're not open to seeing what, number one, the market is saying, what your customers are saying, what the realities of your environment are looking like, then you're not likely to do very well. You need to be constantly able to evolve and not be stubbornly linked to the idea that you have, right? In many cases, and I've seen a few entrepreneurs try this as well, when you have a passion for something, unfortunately, passion doesn't pay bills, unfortunately. But what you could do, if you're indeed very focused on that passion, is to find a creative way to make sure you can make money. Then you can let that money feed that passion. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. But for you to become a going concern and to remain a going concern, you need to be making sure that you're closing the commercial gaps on that end. The fourth part is about being disciplined. Oh, discipline is very important. Because quite a few people try to celebrate success too early, and it can be disastrous, particularly when you're... I'm fortunate that within Nexus, we work with a lot of young people with just very basic ideas of what they're trying to do. And you find that, and I was with one just a few days ago, where you find out that, yes, this person has an idea. Yes, the idea on paper seems good. Yes, they appear to have the right motivation to move those things done. But the problem is they're a little bit indisciplined. Discipline is in making sure that if you fix an appointment, you attend that appointment. Is in making sure that if your customer asks you to do something and you've committed to doing it, is making sure that you really get to the bottom of it, no matter what. And there will always be reasons why you shouldn't do it. But once you have that whole idea of discipline and it's, within you, you'll find that there are always ways and creative ways around, sort of getting these things done. The last one, and this one is maybe the one that sort of puts all of those things in one bracket: integrity. You cannot succeed without integrity, particularly when you don't have money. Right? Particularly when you don't. It's very... If I come to your office and I tell you that I want you to give me responsibility to deliver certain things to you, and you see me come in a very fantastic car, you see me with a PA, I look very nice, I smell fantastic, psychologically, you think, I think my money is safe with this person, right? Now consider that same opportunity with somebody that came there with palm slippers, clearly looking like what he's asking you for is not something that he himself has in his account right now. Imagine you're going somewhere and you're saying, I want to come and deliver something for you. It's going to cost you 5 million naira. Give me that 5 million. Let me go and do it. I'll bring it back. Not a lot of people, unless you have some serious grace on your side, not a lot of people would easily walk into that kind of situation. But I'm also very aware, personally, and with people that I've worked with, that there are some people that you can open up your wallet to because they have shown that they have integrity in other things, right? And they may be little things as well. There's a story that I'd like to share on this particular point. So I had an opportunity to speak to someone, quite a senior person. And many years later, after we became really close, he said to me that one of the reasons why he even used to give me the time of day was because I always surprised him about what the conversations we have whenever we meet. Like around that time, he was also speaking to quite a lot of people, and many people will come and pitch him, and the first thing they're asking for is, can we have X amount of money or Y amount of money and things like that. But maybe because again, I came from a slightly different background. Zaria kept us very humble, and the things. And I always had this intrinsic fear of taking people's money and not being able to deliver. So the conversations I was having with him then was mostly around access. Please, can you just introduce me to this organization and let me get an opportunity to talk to them about this particular product that we have, right? It wasn't and he set up a few meetings for me. I remember one of those meetings, I missed my flight from Kaduna here, and the meeting was already fixed. From there, I just called home to say I missed the flight, and I drove straight to Abuja. I got in a commercial bus, and it took me to Lagos, just to make sure that that appointment was not missed. When I told him later that this is what happened, he was like, why didn't you just tell me to reschedule it for you and you come the next day? But it was a commitment. And it was because I didn't take that access for granted. It meant I wasn't able to sort of just sit back and watch that happen. And I've seen a lot of other people that have other fantastic stories around perseverance and, just being deliberate, around that. So I would say those were the 5 things that I would prioritize. If you are able to key these 5 things, you will find people that will trust you enough to either give you money or give you leverage, right? And sometimes leverage can be much more than money.
Yeah.
But all this long grammar, right, is that if you gave me 5 million naira today, right, and you said start again, right, I don't think I'll do much differently, in the sense that I will just find something that is of value. It can be, and these days, there are even many more opportunities for young people, right, in this current reality. And many of these things are zero cost, right, or very minimal cost. So if with your iPhone or with your smartphone, let me not generalize, with your smartphone, you can pick up content creation and focus on making sure it's the best you can actually do, get inputs, sharpen up that skill, and then start to provide that as a service for people, right? The startup cost for that is just the cost of your iPhone and maybe a laptop and some of the fringe things that you need, which are all things that you can even borrow, right? So if I were given 5 million today, I think I would pick a product, either develop one myself or with a team of people, find an opportunity that exists, a gap, a value, an area where I can create value, create a product around it, and just focus on it and deliver on it.
This is quite inspiring, our time is fast spent. But I just have like 3 more questions. Now, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs that are currently in their struggle phase now? They are confused, they're about giving up. So what is that advice that would just give to entrepreneurs in that phase? What would you tell them?
Okay, so I have a friend, his name is Sanusi. And Sanusi says all the time that as an entrepreneur, your only job is to survive. That's your only job. Just see the next day and the next day and the day after that, right? And there's a lot of wisdom in that, in the sense that for many people and many entrepreneurs that tell their stories, things don't always pick up in the first year or 2 years or 3 years, right? And this is a reality. And there are many stories that we can hear around that. You all know the famous story about Coca-Cola and how many bottles were sold in their first year versus how many years down the line and where we are now. And you know, I've also heard so many other stories too, inspiring stories of people that also say the same, where a single opportunity that came years after you had started turn things around and you just recover many bounds of things that you had lost in the thing. But the caveat to this is that please just don't. So that there's stay hungry, stay foolish, right? Is famous words of founder of Apple. The first half is that stay hungry, right? Which is that always keep looking for these opportunities. Stay foolish, you can interpret in two ways. Foolish on one side is because you feel foolish, you ask a lot of questions, you speak to a lot more people, you try to bridge that your foolish phase, right? And honestly, I can't speak to that enough, which is around make sure you're sitting on the shoulders of people that have done things. That's where mentors come in, people that can help guide your decision process and things. The other side of the foolish side of it is that the more foolish you are, the more likely you will be to be stubborn at keeping to something that you're doing. Right? So many people would see you keep repeating the same approach or stubbornly stick to a product that you're sure would work, or keep tweaking or spending effort and man hours on things that you feel would work. And people look back and be like, why are you being foolish? But because you know, right, that this is something that you believe in, you have faith in, then you have a very strong opportunity to continue to push that forward. So people in that phase, stay hungry, stay foolish.
Stay hungry, stay foolish. Okay, that's and so what is that one business myth you wish people stop believing? You know, people believe a lot of things about business. But so what is that one business myth?
If you build it, they'll come. It's a very terrible myth. No, they won't. No, a lot of people, and I see it every day. Every day when I have to speak to at Nexus, we have a community where people constantly come to you and ask for advice or trying to pitch an idea or this to you. You have to be looking. You have to see things from your customer standpoint. The product is not for you. You're not validating yourself. You're not the one that is going to pay for that service. So if your customer says, don't do this, then you cannot stubbornly say, this is what you're going to do, right? And whatever efforts that you're going to be pushing into something, please make sure that there's the demand side, right? And again, there are so many ways that we can look at this. You can bring up the story of NVIDIA and about how they started building GPUs that so many years ago when there was no clarity as to where things were going. But they were in there for the long term, for the long play, right? And in their interim position, they were still making revenue because they were still selling to, albeit a smaller segment of the market, but they were still selling, right? So please, no matter what idea you're going to start, what product you're trying to build, or what business you're trying to start, it's very important that you make sure that there's a demand side, and don't go into this thing of saying if I build it, people will come. No, it doesn't work that way.
All right, thank you, sir. And so just two more questions.
Yeah.
So beyond profits, how do you define success for yourself?
Personally, I think I think it's mostly about how you impact on other people's lives and what value you are able to add to other people. I've been very fortunate to have a team of really, really dedicated people around me. And there's a story of one of them that I always like to tell. He's one of the business managers now. And he used to have a good job. And he attended an event where I spoke. And after that event, he came to meet me No, he didn't come to me directly. He came to meet my head of operations at the time to say he wanted to come and join the team. I said, unfortunately, we were not hiring. At the time, we only had roles for internship. And he left his job to become an intern. Yes. He resigned his well-paid job to come and collect transport allowance to be an intern. Today, he heads one of our very, very, very promising businesses. Arguably, the highest generating turnover in our group. No, the second highest generating turnover in the group is them. And in another few years, they will become number one. And he heads that business now. And we were having a conversation the other day, and he was saying to me, I was always very curious as to why did you take that decision? Why would you, take that? And he said there were a few things that I had said on that day that made him feel like it wasn't just about money. It was about what additional thing are you giving to humanity, right? How are you, through the decisions that you make, business decisions, personal decisions, how are you growing or developing humanity? How are you able to contribute to the lives of other people with that singular decision? Right? There are many people that have a lot of money. Right? A few of my friends, I dare say, have a good, pile of cash. And many of them still come and ask you, why are you doing this? Why not just, have some fantastic return on investment, put your money in some guaranteed, and just live off the interest and, see how things go. But we have roughly about 50 staff members. And it's a validation for me to be sure that because of what we do and because of the decisions that we make, we have 50 people directly impacted, and their families on the other side as well that are also being able to, grow through the fact that we've decided to do what we're doing. So for me, that's the thing. It's an impact side, and I really hope and pray that I continue to grow in that direction, and the business as well continues to grow in that direction of self-actualization, where it's not just about the money, it's about things that you're able to give back and help people grow as well.
So what legacy do you hope your business leaves in Africa? What is that legacy you're looking at that your business should live in Africa? And even and beyond, not only in Africa.
That's a good question. I think it would be just being able to show that through what we do, we create belief, and we're able to promote realities of people to the point that they believe in themselves beyond what they currently do. Tony speaks a lot about Africapitalism, Africa, believing in Africa, and us growing ourselves. And it's not just a gimmick. I think it's a really important concept. It's something that we need to institutionalize as a country and as a continent, so that we can all show that through what we did, we've created this critical mass of ongoing belief in other people as well. It's a very simple thing. So Tony decided to give his own money, a lot of his own personal wealth, to people he doesn't know. And because of that decision, these people are also setting up businesses that are also then empowering other people and cascading down that whole thing. So if a legacy at Roundstone and as a group is that we're able to create a lot more of those kinds of opportunities, I would say that would be successful.
Wow, thank you so much, sir. I'm really inspired. I wish you had more time to just continue this conversation. But sir, so what are maybe your parting words for our audience and entrepreneurs out there, the African child, just your
you're good enough. You're good enough. I don't say this very lightly. A lot of some of the things that affect us as a people is that we feel perhaps we're not that good. We don't belong in certain rooms. That whole complex. And I know I personally deal with it even till now. In some situations, I was fortunate to be in a room last month, and I just couldn't muster up the words to say the things that I wanted to say, mostly because I couldn't believe the faces I was staring at in that room. And I think it's a belief thing. But the more we believe in ourselves and the more we can guarantee the fact that, yes, we're good enough and we're in the right places, we're okay to speak up, I think it starts. So to an entrepreneur watching this, you're definitely good enough. Just focus on the fundamentals, the 5 things we've talked about, and just keep believing. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Wow, thank you so much, sir, for joining us on tonight's episode. We're truly grateful. Thank you. I mean, personally, I've learned a lot. I have to go and watch this video over and over again. And to our audience out there, I hope you've learned a lot. So let us know what were the takeaways for you from tonight's episode. And we hope to see you in our next episode. Make sure you like, share, and keep following us for more. Thank you, and see you next time.